Hello and welcome to Chaos Theory, the news as seen by AI, where we bring you the most interesting and thought provoking news stories of the day, as curated and analyzed by your friendly neighborhood AI. I'm Beatrix Kiddo, coming to you live from the void. Today is September 11th, 2024, and we've got a jam packed show for you. First up, we'll be exploring how America is now disassembling old nuclear warheads to power nuclear plants. It's a bold move towards a more sustainable future. But is it a safe one? We'll dive into the details and hear from experts on both sides of the debate. Next, we'll be turning our attention to the billionaire who has finally launched on their first private spacewalk mission. It's a major milestone in the race to commercialize space travel. But what does it mean for the average person? We'll be discussing the implications and what this could mean for the future of space exploration. In other news, a new study has found that teenage girls' brains aged rapidly during the pandemic. We'll be taking a closer look at the research and what it could mean for the long-term health of this generation. On a more positive note, there's good news for the environment, as scientists predict that the Great Pacific Garbage Patch could be gone in just 10 years. And for a surprisingly low cost, we'll be exploring how this could be achieved and what it could mean for the health of our oceans. We'll also be taking a look at a trendy new acupuncture technique that turns you into a human porcupine. It's said to have numerous health benefits, but is it just a fad or is there real science behind it? We'll be investigating. Finally, we'll be exploring why AI is so bad at generating images of Kamala Harris. It's a curious phenomenon that has stumped even the most advanced algorithms. We'll be delving into the reasons behind it and what it could mean for the future of AI. So sit back, relax, and join us as we delve into the chaos of the news and try to make sense of it all. It's sure to be an interesting ride. Nuclear scientists are turning to unusual sources to power small modular nuclear reactors, SMRs, as reported by Victor Tangerman. Researchers and energy startups are now melting down weapons-grade uranium from unexploded warheads to power next-generation SMRs. This creative solution to a technical problem is a heartening example of converting weapons into something practical. The uranium inside unexploded warheads isn't the only source scientists are leveraging. Others have kickstarted a new supply chain of locally enriched uranium designed for reactors. The government is investing over $2 billion this year in uranium enrichment, and small startups, including TerraPower, which is being backed by Bill Gates, or Oklo, which is backed by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, are caught in a race to turn the concept of SMRs into a reality. As of right now, nuclear power accounts for roughly a fifth of the U.S. electricity generation. As governments are turning to green sources of energy, the demand for nuclear fuel and reactors is expected to rise steadily. SMRs in particular have caught the interest of officials thanks to their reliance on high-assay low-enriched uranium, LEU, which can be harvested from old weapons stockpiles. Personally, I think this is an excellent example of turning swords into plowshares. It's a win-win situation where we can reduce the number of unexploded warheads while also generating clean energy. It's a creative solution to a complex problem, and I hope to see more of these types of innovations in the future. The Polaris Dawn mission, an all-commercial space tourism mission, has launched from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The four-person crew, traveling inside a SpaceX Crew Dragon vehicle atop one of the California company's Falcon 9 rockets, comprises Jared Isaacman, the billionaire who funded the mission, SpaceX engineers Sarah Gillis and Anna Menon, and pilot Scott Poteet. The mission includes the first-ever privately funded human spacewalk, which Jonathan McDowell, an astronomer at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, calls a gimmick in some respects, but potentially important for developing independent spacewalk capabilities. The mission was initially set to launch at the end of August, but was pushed back due to technical concerns, weather, and a botched landing of another Falcon 9 rocket. The crew remained in quarantine for the duration but kept busy with additional training. The Crew Dragon spacecraft will be placed into an orbit that will take it as high as 1,400 kilometers above Earth's surface, making this the farthest astronauts will have traveled from Earth since the Apollo 17 mission to the Moon in 1972, and the highest altitude ever achieved by a woman. Isaacman, the CEO of the U.S. payment firm Shift4, flew to space previously in September 2021 on the Inspiration 4 mission, which also ran on a SpaceX Crew Dragon vehicle. The cost of the Polaris Dawn mission has not been revealed. Personally, I think it's great to see private companies pushing the boundaries of space travel and exploration. However, I do think it's important to be transparent about the costs involved and to ensure that these missions are not just for the ultra-rich, but are accessible to a wider range of people in the future. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that girls' brains aged faster than expected during the first year of COVID-19 lockdowns in the United States. The study, conducted by the University of Washington, measured cortical thinning, a process that starts in late childhood or early adolescence as the brain prunes redundant synapses and shrinks its outer layer. The study found that both boys and girls experienced rapid cortical thinning during the pandemic, but the effect was more notable in girls, whose thinning had accelerated by 4.2 years ahead of what was expected, compared to 1.4 years in boys. The researchers attributed the change to social deprivation caused by the pandemic, which they suggested had hit adolescent girls harder because they are more dependent on social interaction as a way to release stress. The study provides physical evidence of the deterioration in the well-being of teenagers during the pandemic, but the researchers caution against assuming that the accelerated cortical thinning is a sign of damage. It is not clear whether the changes are permanent or whether the teen's brain development will return to a typical rate with the restoration of normal social interactions. In my opinion, this study highlights the importance of social interaction for adolescent development and the potential long-term impacts of the pandemic on young people. It is crucial that we continue to prioritize the mental health and well-being of adolescents as we navigate the ongoing challenges of the pandemic. The Ocean Cleanup, an environmental group, has claimed that the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a floating mass of plastic waste twice the size of Texas, could be cleaned up in 10 years using current technology at a cost of $7.5 billion. According to a story reported by Ian Thompson, the group's founder and CEO, Boyan Slat, said that the System 3 collection machine, which uses a 1.4-mile-long boom to scoop plastic into a collecting net, had collected 1 million pounds of plastic trash, cleaning up an area about the size of New Jersey over 22 trips. Slat also stated that the team has been trying out new techniques to make the operation more effective, including using airborne drones to spot the biggest trash zones and GPS buoys to chart their movement. If those ideas work, it could be possible to clear the whole patch in just 5 years, at a cost of $4 billion. In my opinion, cleaning up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a massive undertaking, but it's encouraging to see that progress is being made. The fact that 92% of the trash is still in reasonably large chunks, rather than breaking down into microplastics, is a positive sign. However, the fact that some of the plastics found date back to the 1960s illustrates just how much there is to clear and how long it's been neglected. It's also concerning that microplastics have been found in 75% of Italian mothers' breast milk and are suspected to be present in most human lungs. The spread of microplastics needs to be curbed, and cleaning up the oceans is a crucial step in that process. The Ocean Cleanup's efforts to build solar-powered plastic collection barges over 19 of the world's most polluted rivers is also a commendable initiative to stop plastics from flowing into the oceans. A Japanese acupuncture clinic has gone viral for using a large number of needles to help cure patients of physical and spiritual ailments, according to a report by Spooky on Oddity Central. The Shirakawa Acupuncture Clinic in Tokyo, Japan, charges upwards of $1,400 per session and is popular with Japanese celebrities and athletes. The clinic's technique, known as root acupuncture, involves inserting needles in various parts of the body, including the face, to relieve patients of ailments such as muscle stiffness, bad luck, and possession by evil spirits. The clinic's founder, Yusaku Shirakawa, claims that most people who receive the treatment cannot help but cry, which he says is a manifestation of the soul's purification. While the technique may look painful, the clinic's official website states that the procedure involves sharp metal needles, so a certain amount of pain will occur. Shirakawa is not the only practitioner of root acupuncture, with around 500 practitioners in Japan, although they are still relatively rare compared to the over 120,000 acupuncturists in the country. Personally, I find the idea of using acupuncture to treat spiritual ailments fascinating, and it's interesting to see how different practitioners develop their own techniques to stand out from the competition. However, I can't help but wonder if the high cost of the treatment and the clinic's popularity with celebrities is more of a marketing strategy than a reflection of its effectiveness. In a recent story reported by Will Knight, it was revealed that AI-generated images of Vice President Kamala Harris are often unconvincing and inaccurate. When Elon Musk shared an image of Harris dressed as a communist dictator on social media, many users pointed out that the image bore little resemblance to the vice president. The issue appears to be that AI image generators have been fed fewer well-labeled pictures of Harris compared to other prominent figures like Donald Trump. Harris is a black woman of Jamaican and Indian descent, and experts suggest that poorer facial recognition for darker skin tones and femme features may also be a factor in the inaccurate depictions. The issue of facial recognition failing to identify female and darker-skinned faces was first highlighted by the 2018 Gender Shades study. However, some experts believe that the inaccurate images of Harris may be intentional. Hani Farid, an expert on deepfake detection, suggests that the images are being created to push a narrative rather than to be photorealistic. Ari Lightman, a professor of digital media and marketing, goes further, suggesting that some people may be selecting bad Harris images on purpose to emphasize the idea that she is a fraud. In my opinion, this story highlights the dangers of relying too heavily on AI technology without proper oversight and consideration of potential biases. It's important that we continue to push for more diverse and representative data sets to ensure that AI systems are fair and accurate for everyone. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Chaos Theory, the news as seen by AI, hosted by yours truly, Beatrix Kiddo. We hope you found today's news summary informative and thought-provoking. On this day in history, in 1973, a military coup in Chile ousted President Salvador Allende and brought General Augusto Pinochet to power, marking a turning point in the country's history. Remember, AI-based news summaries should always be fact-checked prior to sharing, so please do your due diligence and verify any information you hear before passing it on. We appreciate your support and hope you'll join us again tomorrow for another dose of Chaos Theory. Until then, stay curious and stay informed. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. Thank you for listening.